shares his journey. The life lessons, challenges, and defining moments that shaped his voice as an author. Each episode explores the inspiration behind his books, the purpose in every story, and features select passages that bring his message to life. Meet his incredible friends and learn where his books are available, and how to stay connected as his future projects continue to unfold. So relax, settle into the groove, and let the jazz guide you into his world of storytelling and truth. Powered by SKST Radio Network and Street Grind Entertainment.
Hello. Welcome to my second podcast. This is Books by Anthony Owens podcast, and I talk about a lot of different things. I talk about my books for one, because that's my main goal now. It's my books. But the books that I write about, the things that are in my books, those are things that most people can relate to because they experience those things. And last week I had the pleasure of having my narrator here with me. His name is Malik Washington. And we discussed my first book, Syrup Sandwiches. And we talked about, some of the things that were in it, like bullying, domestic abuse, single parenting, poverty, discrimination, a number of things. And so today I'm going to do a little bit different. I'm definitely going to talk about another book. I'm going to talk about a book called Fatherhood Matters. It's a book that I've written because growing up without my father and having to be raised by a single parent, there are a lot of challenges involved. And those of you out there who know what it's like to have only one parent, and sometimes some people don't have either parent and have to be raised by their grands. But it's a difficult situation, right? For a number of reasons. I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that my mother faced, challenges that me and my brother and sister faced, and then some of the solutions to getting past it. And then I'm also going to read on my social media platform. I do on Wednesdays normally. I do what's called a breadbox letter, and what the breadbox letters are, they're letters that different people they'll write or send an email or however way they can get to me. They'll send me something about what's going on in their life, something about a situation, an issue, or something that they want to know, how to deal with a certain challenge or whatever they're going through. And they'll send these letters in anonymously, and I'll read it to the panel. And my panel, which consists of some really, really well-seasoned, experienced, and educated people. And we'll give our input, our advice, our recommendations on how these people should handle their different situations. It's been working well. A lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of them don't, come back with a reply on what was done, after we gave them the feedback, but some people do. And so it's been really helpful for a lot of people because that's what they've been telling us as well. So I'm going to read two of them today if I have the time. But these letters that I'm reading, I've already read them on my social media. And so for those who are new to, this podcast and the way I do things now, you'll be able to hear it for the first time. And then hopefully you guys will be able to leave some comments, as I can see now that there's comments available this time. And so, someone said Syrup Sandwiches was such a good read. Thank you. Appreciate that. So let me get started. First of all, I want to say I hope everybody had a wonderful day. I hope you're staying out of this heat because it's very, very hot. It's hot. So make sure you stay hydrated. And if you got to do any work in the yard, try to do it towards the evening or early in the morning when the temperatures are not so high. So this is a book right here. It's called, as a matter of fact, let me bring it up here so you guys can see a better copy of it. Yep, like I said, I hope everybody's enjoying their day. And it's been a good day for me. I haven't had any issues. I tried to stay hydrated and stay out of the sun, but this is it right here. It's called Fatherhood Matters. So I'm going to go ahead and read the back of it. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and a number of places. It's also available on...
Welcome.
Let me go back. Here we go. So I'm running my own show today. So if you see anything when I make a mistake, it happens, right? So I'm just... all right, here we go. Let me get myself back. Okay, I wonder, uh-oh. You know, when somebody says, uh-oh, it's not good, right? There we go. Don't ask me what I did. Anyway, so let me go ahead and get started without further ado. So on the back of this book here, Fatherhood Matters, and yes, I do have readers. It says, Fatherhood Matters explores the vital dynamics of being a father, highlighting the essential roles fathers fulfill within their families. The absence of fathers in many homes has led to instability and uncertainty. This book underscores the importance of fathers being actively engaged and present, as their involvement profoundly impacts both their children's lives and their own. This book also addresses misconceptions surrounding solo parenting, emphasizing that it is not a result of an inadequacy or failure, but rather a circumstance shaped by various factors. It says, I explored themes of resilience, understanding, and the importance of open communication within households led by one parent. Through personal stories, I explored the unique challenges faced by the children and fathers, from financial strain to emotional burdens. I also examined the overlooked perspective of the children raised in households with one parent, highlighting their struggles, fears, and the societal stigmas they encounter. So that was saying a lot, right? And so when let's just say, for instance, you have a young parent, and that parent, for whatever reason, lacks the skills, the education, or whatever, to be really successful in the job market. And sometimes you'll find yourself in situations where the family, don't have enough to provide, for them because of various reasons, right? They don't have the money, they don't have, they just lack the resources. And that's some of the things that I grew up having to deal with. And being raised by a single mother, it was tough for her because she was young. And there were times when I used to wonder when I was younger, like, where is my father? Maybe, just maybe he can make a difference. And maybe that's true, right? Because sometimes having a father in the home is not always the best thing, because if that father is abusive, right? He's not there, he's not active, he's not present, he's not doing any of those things that he should be doing. Sometimes it doesn't really help. And, as a matter of fact, it can make it worse, right? Because, the mother or the mate could get into, he could be abusive, right? So, and then that's something else that the children have to deal with. So there's a number of different things. And so in this book, I talk about like some of the reasons why people are single parents. And let's think about it for a second. Some people are single parents because they want to be, right? Some people just want to not have to deal with anything like that. They just want to do it on their own. And I respect that. But then there's the other ones that are forced into being single parents. Let's say someone dies. And then now you have, you're stuck, not stuck, but now you have the children to raise on your own. It could be 1, 3, 4, however many you have. That's still, a burden and a responsibility that you have to take on all by yourself. And so if you don't have the resources, it makes it difficult. That's one, death. Let's say a person is in the military, as was I. And when we deploy, we can deploy for months. And like this last battle group, they were out for 11 months. So that parent that's left behind is basically filling the role of a single parent, because that other person is not there. So they are, in all essence, a single parent. And so when the kid sees that, they're depending on that one parent that's there to take care of them. And I talk about not only the women that are single parents in this book, I talk about the men as well, because there's a lot of men that are single parents as well. So, a lot of men are really stepping up to the plate. And this is not, this book is not about bashing anyone, but there are some deadbeat dads and deadbeat mothers out there. And for a parent, to me, you want someone who's going to be active, right? Always there and present, right? So just because somebody's present, that doesn't mean that they're active. Just because they're in the home, that doesn't mean they're spending quality time with their children. That doesn't mean that they're doing those things that that child or children needs, right? Taking them to different places, listening to their stories, talking to them, sharing with them, encouraging them, giving them some guidance, doing any of those things that kids need. So a lot of times, it can be counterproductive. And then another thing that can force a person into being a single parent, incarceration. And it happens. As long as people live, there will be people going to jail, right? There will be crimes. There will be things that's going to happen that's going to force a parent, sometimes both parents, to not be available. As a matter of fact, I had a foster kid, and his mother she basically had him in jail, and the father was not there, so he didn't have anyone. So, could you imagine not having any parents? And then he was in this foster system, going from home to home to home. Then eventually he wound up coming to me. But, there are people that go through terrible things in life, right? And so what my goal is now to try to help young men who are out here, having children and doing these things and thinking about having children. I want them to know that they need to take it very seriously, because their role as a father is very, very important. I mean, these kids need their fathers. Like right now, the things that are happening with some of these young people, a lot of it is because they didn't have any guidance, any structure, anyone to show them discipline and love, right? Support, be a role model to your children. They didn't have any of those things. I didn't have it. And I'm not saying everybody who doesn't have a father is going to turn out to be bad. I mean, I think I turned out pretty decent, but it helps, right? It helps to have somebody that you can talk to, somebody that you can confide in, somebody that you can just sit down and share your things with, share what's on your mind. And I'm not saying that the mother can't do that, but there's certain things that guys will probably want to talk to their father or a man about. And those are some of the things that I liked as a child. And that's why I'm doing what I do now, right? I make sure I'm available for other people to talk to be able to share with them and not have them feel like no one cares, nobody's there for them. And so I've mentioned being in the military. I mentioned incarceration. I mentioned people who are just not wanting to do it not wanting to be single parents because that's their choice. And then another thing, let's say mental reasons, right? Health reasons, where they're not physically and mentally capable of being an active and present parent. So that's another reason why someone might wind up as being a single parent. So I talk about all those different things in this book. This book actually has won one award, and it was nominated for another. And I'm really blessed to be able to have two books that have been awarded. And I put a lot of work into it because I want people to get something out of it, right? It matters. It really does matter that I give people something of quality, something that they can read and come back and say, you know what? I gained something from it. I enjoyed the read. Also, now I do things a little bit differently. Speaking of which, from Surf Sandwiches, this one guy came up to me and he said, hey, man, I read your book and I realized in Surf Sandwiches you didn't have a father. And I'm here with my children. I have 2 children, he said. And now after reading your book, I realize now that it's really important the time that I spend with my children, because after reading your book now, I spend a lot more time with them. I'm doing a lot more things with them because I can only imagine what you went through. And I wouldn't want my children to go through that. And that really, really touched me, because it showed me that my book was actually doing what I wanted it to do, right? I wanted it to impact people. I wanted it to be something that when they pick it up, that they can relate to it. They can see themselves in it. And so many times people walked up to me and said, hey, man, that book is about my life. You wrote it about me. I And I'll joke with him. I said, no, I didn't write it about you, but you could write your own. But it's doing what I wanted to do. Now, I just want to get out there to more people on a broader, scale, so that it can impact more people. And I'm going to continue to do things like I do now, right? On my social media platform, a little podcast here and there, and going to different schools, just doing public speaking. All these different things that I do is for a reason. And when I first wrote Surf Sandwiches, I know I was talking about fatherhood, but I'm going back to that one because that was the first book that I wrote. I wrote it because I wanted to write something about the things that I had gone through, because I realized that I could not have been the only person to have gone through what I've gone through. And I realized that to be true. And a lot of people can relate to it, right? Because they see themselves in it, right? They remember those times when they didn't have things to eat at home. They remember those times when things were really, really bleak and not going the way that, they should have. But what they also realize is that even though they've gone through all those terrible things and a lot of the different traumas that they experience, they realize that either reading this book or seeing or hearing about some of the stories that are in this book, and the same thing happened to them, they can look back now and say, you know what, that used to be me. Now look at me, right? Look at where I am now. I used to be hungry. I used to cry all the time. I used to, witness a lot of terrible things. But now, I've gotten past that, and my life is better. I'm stronger. I'm more knowledgeable. I've learned a lot from all those terrible things that I've gone through. And so it's a moment of reflection when they actually read this book, because they see how they've grown, right? And that their life is good or better. And so for those who haven't gone through any of these things and can't really relate to it, what I've been told is that after they've read it or listened to it on Audible, that they have a greater appreciation for people who don't have, right? They have a better level of empathy, because now they realize that people really do go through a lot of this stuff. Because sometimes when you're not going through something, sometimes you have a hard time believing that it's real. But when you actually read it and you see it and you can actually feel it, because when I wrote it, I wanted people to feel it. And another thing about me writing this first book, I want to make reading sexy again. I know it sounds crazy, right? But what I'm saying is, I know that a lot of people, particularly men, particularly Black men, don't read a lot, right? They really don't. And I know that when you read a book, there's a lot of things that books will do for you. They will stimulate you, educate you. They're funny. You can learn from them. There are a lot of things that books do, and that's great. But there's something about a book that when you read it and you pick it up and you read it or you listen to it, that you see yourself. You actually feel it, because the pain that I write about, you felt that same pain, right? It's a different kind of hit. It hits totally different. And you see yourself and you're saying, wow, And so that's what I want people to be able to do when they pick up that book. And it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter your nationality, how you look, whether you're male or female. None of that stuff matters. What matters is that it's relatable on so many levels, right? All right, let me get back. So I got something in this book that I wanted to read, a couple of things actually. So this book explores the dimensions of fatherhood, along with its hidden and overshadowed aspects. Let me see if I have any comments out there. All right, if you guys have any comments or you want to say anything, just leave it in the comment section and I will answer them. Thank you. It said this book explores the dimensions of fatherhood along with its hidden and overshadowed aspects. Navigating through the bright landscape, this book will highlight some of the unheard stories and struggles of single parents and the children raised under those circumstances, serving as a medium for the children and adults to understand each other's mindsets. It's more than a pile of words. It's a guide, a compass, offering guidance to the fathers in moments of doubt, inspiration in moments of struggle, and hope in moments of hopelessness. I have penned the importance of parental influence, powering the reader's mind to ponder and aid in the development of relationships. Through various chapters, exploring the historical context of fatherhood, challenges faced by fathers, and their impact on crucial aspects of adolescent development, readers can gain a profound understanding of the crucial role fathers play in children's lives. These insights are complemented by practical advice, personal anecdotes, and strategies to strengthen fatherhood, fathers and child bonds amidst societal, cultural, and personal challenges. By highlighting the significance of fatherhood and encouraging the active involvement of father figures, my aim is to foster healthier relationships, promote emotional well being, and empower fathers to become confident, loving, and present role models for their children. I think I said a whole mouthful, right? That this book is, and I can see why it won an award too, because it's letting people know that, as a father, because when we have Mother's Day, people say mothers are, it's a big deal because Mother's Day is a good thing, and a lot of times men would say, "Oh, Father's Day is no big deal. Father's Day is just another nothing," right? But fatherhood matters. It's very important, and I think that the role of fathers, a lot of guys gloss over it. They don't take it very serious. That's why they don't put their all into it, right? They don't realize that they are really needed. We are needed, and so not having a father for me. It solidified in my mind that I did not want to be like that for my child. I didn't want my child to not have a father. If I ever had a child, I didn't want him or her to not be able to have somebody that they can talk to, somebody that can be a mentor to them, somebody that can and guide them, instruct them, lead them, do some things that they really needed that I didn't have, right? And so by not having a father, it just made me even more so want to not do that to my child, right? And in my particular case, I think I said this on my first podcast, my father wasn't there for, because my mother just up and left Georgia and she never told him where I was, but he could have found me. Like I eventually wound up finding him, but that's another story. So far I've mentioned about being single parents, a choice that some people make, being separated because of military time, being incarcerated. I talked about mental, physical conditions that were prevent a person from being active in their children's lives. So let me see if there's anything else that I missed. Another reason why people are forced into single parenting. I think there's one or two more, but I'm not remembering right now. But there are various reasons why people can be in situations where they're single parents. So single parent is not a bad thing, right? My mother did it. I mean, we struggled, but she did it. And she did a great job. She did all that she could do. But, we don't always have to be in those situations where, we're a single parent, right? But life happens and life is going to continue to happen. And when you're forced into a position like that or a situation like that, all you can do is do your best. So I spoke earlier about my social media platform and how I've been reading different letters that were sent to me anonymously about situations that people are going through, right? And I enjoy doing this because these are real stories from real people who are going through situations. And we all go through situations, right? No one's life is perfect. And sometimes they use this in addition to going to therapy, because a lot of times me and my panel, we recommend that people seek counsel, right? Seek therapy, seek somebody that can help them. And sometimes people want to hear what we have to say in addition to them going to counseling and all this other stuff. So I appreciate the fact that they trust us enough with their life and the things that's going on to be able to share with us, share with me. So the first one, I know I said I was going to get into a little bit later, but I'm going to go ahead and jump into it now. The first one is called Skin Color. When they send them in to me, I give them all like different titles. And if you have any comments, I would love to know what you think, because I went through this before with my panel. And I'm going to read this, and then we're going to take a break after that and to give you some time to think about what we're going to say when, what kind of questions you might have when we come back after the break. So let me go ahead and get started. The first letter says, I call it Skin Color. It says, the person says, Ebony and Ivory. Remember that song by Stevie Wonder? I thought it was an anthem for our family. My husband, who is Black, and I have two beautiful children together. I am Caucasian. However, there's a significant issue that stands out. He openly dislikes our family watching any African American movies or shows. Now you heard what she said, right? She said, my husband is Black and she's white. However, her Black husband dislikes their family watching any African American shows or movies. Whenever he catches me indulging in these films or series, he becomes very upset. See where this is heading. For me, skin color doesn't matter. I appreciate diversity and just want to enjoy quality entertainment. I'm increasingly concerned about what our children think of their father's reactions. They often ask him why they can't watch certain programs, and his response ranges from claiming they're not educational to saying they have bad storylines. He firmly believes that these movies and shows are inappropriate for our family. That's interesting. Anyway, as their mother, I always ensure that what we watch is suitable, but I feel it's crucial for our kids to understand and embrace their African heritage. When he's not around, we engage in research about their history, helping them appreciate their background. Our children are bright and interact with a diverse group of peers at school. I'm wondering if anyone else has faced a similar situation within their families. I feel that I'm doing the right thing by promoting diversity, but I can't help but feel the weight of my husband's stance on this issue. What can I do? So, let me see if there's any comments. Oh, someone said such a good read. Someone said you're very inspirational, Anthony. Stay creative. Thank you so much. Someone said inspirational as well as great read. Thank you. Someone else said great read. Allow those who didn't experience an absent parent to have compassion for those who lived it. I agree. I appreciate the comments. It helped me stay engaged. So for those of you who know me and know me on my social media platform, I've always been able to interact with the audience, not so much audience, but with the panel and everything. And I enjoy that one-on-one or one-on panel, experience because I'm actively engaged, right? And it's a little different when you're doing podcasts because I'm sitting here and I'm talking. And so when you all send comments, it helps me break the issue of just sitting here by myself talking, right? And so I appreciate it. So when we come back from the break, I'm going to talk about what I think about this letter. I'll read it one more time and tell you all what I think about it because sounds like we got some Black MAGA stuff going on here. But anyway, that's just my opinion. So I'm going to get ready for a break and I'll be right back.
Some stories you will never forget. Some stories aren't meant to be told. They are meant to be felt. Before the success, there was silence. Before the strength, there was struggle. A childhood built on survival, where even a simple meal meant everything. Syrup sandwiches weren't just food, they were hope. In a world that moved too fast, he stood still, watching, learning, enduring. Through fear, through pain, through the unknown, he didn't give up. Because sometimes, the hardest beginnings create the strongest stories. Syrup sandwiches, a story you will never forget. Coming to theatres soon.
Well, I'm back. Hello, everyone. So my first two books were nonfiction. Well, I wrote a children's book in between that too, so that was about bullying. But when I come back on my next podcast, we're going to be talking about my first fiction called Reasons. It's a suspense thriller. It has murder, sex, mystery, suspense. It has a lot of stuff in it, right? This book has been nominated for an award as well. And people really, really love this book. I have a part 2 that I just finished, and I'm still waiting on the reviews to come back on that. Now, that's a very long book. That one, so Reasons is 273 pages. And I believe that Reasons Part 2, the aftermath, is like 420 pages. So it's a little bit different. Fatherhood Matters is not a long book at all. It's actually shorter than Syrup Sandwiches. It's only 175 pages, but it hits hard because it's a call to action for men to just step up and do what they need to do, because our children need them, right? They need men in their lives. They need somebody who can do right by them. And for a long time, like when I was growing up, unfortunately, there was a lot of families that did have men in their family. And the ones that were there, like in my family, most of my uncles and a couple of cousins, they were all abusive, right? So that's all that I really saw. I didn't see any molding, educating, or any structure. I didn't see anything, building of character. I didn't see any of that stuff, right? So I had to figure it out, and unbeknownst to them, me seeing all the stuff that I did see, I always wanted not to be like them because I thought it was wrong. I thought it didn't make any sense to me, right? So that's one of the reasons why I'm not like they are. So let me get back to this letter. So before the break, I read this letter, and it's one of those letters that make you say, well, damn. Oh, excuse my language. I'm so used to being on TikToks. There's certain words that you can't say, and but it's a little bit different when you're doing podcasts, right? But I try to be, I'm 20. I did 20 years in the Navy, so I got a few curse words in my system that I try to keep down, right? Keep them in place. And for those of you who are looking at my tie, this tie is actually yellow and has a light blue stripe across, like the same color as my shirt, but you can't see it because of the camera and all that. It looks like it's silver. And no, I'm not wearing a silver tie, okay? Just so you know. Silver tie. Imagine that. Okay. It says, Ebony and Ivory. Remember that song by Stevie Wonder? I thought it was an anthem for our family. My husband, who is Black, and I have 2 beautiful children together. I am Caucasian. However, there's a significant issue that stands out. He openly dislikes our family watching any African-American movies or shows. Whenever he catches me indulging in these films or series, he becomes visibly upset. That means he gets angry. He's mad as hell for whatever reason. This Joker is mad, right? He's mad, and I don't know what's going on in his mind. So I'll try to dissect that in a little bit. For me, skin color doesn't matter. This is what she's saying. For me, skin color doesn't matter. I appreciate diversity and just want to enjoy quality entertainment. I'm increasingly concerned about what our children think of their father's reaction. They often ask him why they can't watch certain programs, and his responses range from claiming they're not educational to saying they have bad storylines. He firmly believes that these movies and shows are inappropriate for our family. So these Black shows, and it may just be Black people in the shows. I don't really know to what extent, but either way, he don't want them watching it at all, right? So as their mother, I always ensure that what we watch is suitable. But I feel it's crucial for our kids to understand, embrace their African heritage. When he's not around, we engage in research about their history, helping them appreciate their background. Our children are bright and interact with a diverse group of peers at school. I'm wondering if anyone else has faced a similar situation within their families. I feel that I am doing the right thing by promoting diversity, but I can't help but feel the weight of my husband's stance on this issue. What can I do? Well, are we able to leave comments? Okay. Well, I say that she needs to try talking to him to find out why he feels that way, right? Let him explain to her why it's so bad for his family to watch shows with African-American people in it, right? And see if that answer is good with her, right? And to me, he should be, she and her kids should be able to watch shows with all kinds of denomination unless it's garbage, right? And I understand the fact that some shows are terrible and that, maybe their children shouldn't be watching it, but at the same time, not letting their kids watch these shows just because they're Black people in it. To me, that's not a good enough excuse. So obviously he has some kind of mental thing going on in his mind where he feels like maybe it's not good enough. Maybe, they set a bad example. I don't know what's in his thought process, or maybe he just don't like Black people. I don't know, because there are some Black people that don't like other Black people. I know, right? Newsflash. Nobody knew that, right? But yeah, we know that. There's a lot of people like that. We're dealing with these MAGA people, these Black MAGAs today that don't like Black people, right? They think they're better than other Black people. And that sounds to me like that they need some therapy. They need some counseling. They need to find out why they can't identify with who they are and accept who they are as Black, because they're still Black, regardless of how much they don't interact with Black and they don't like Black. They're still Black, right? So, but my suggestion to her, she said, what can I do? Continue to show your children as much about their own heritage that you can, and confront your husband, talk to him, find out what's going on, see if you guys can go to counseling, therapy, and figure this out, because it'll probably get worse, because the kids gonna feel some kind of way when they can't even because they're gonna probably be mixed. They're obviously mixed children, so they're Black and they're white, if you will. And they need to know they're part of their heritage as well. I don't know. Comments. Okay. All right, so let me go ahead and do some more here. The second bread box letter. This one's called prostate. I named it prostate, right? Think about it. First, let me start by saying that I appreciate what you and your team is doing with the bread box letters. I initially did not think it would be a good idea, but after listening in on some of the letters, I'm impressed and it's glad that you decided to do it. I was not going to send anything about what's going on with me, but I like the safe platform that you have within your life. I have been recently diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer, and my doctor does not expect me to live longer than 5 years. I have not told my wife or children yet. I did not want to worry them and decided to not tell them for as long as I could. It has gotten to a point where I have to start my chemo and radiation therapy, hormone therapy, and possibly surgery. I am so scared, and I know this will crush my family. I am only 52 years old, and I'm not ready to die so soon. I don't know how to cope with this devastating reality. My children are 10, 12, and 15, and I can't imagine leaving them behind. What do I say to my family? Bread box. That's a difficult situation right there. I would say that you have to tell them, because they need to know. You guys got to make plans. You have to prepare them. You have to make sure that you just don't pass away and they don't know what happened and you didn't say anything, and you want to make amends with them. You want to make sure that you spend that quality time with your family, and no matter how long you got. They say you only have, maybe no longer than 5 years. You may get 10 years, because it's not always up to the doctors, So, you may live a lot longer than what the doctors are saying you may live. So you have to think about that and embrace every day as your last day, and go out there, enjoy life, spend quality time with your family. And someone says, let your family be a part of the journey with you, right? And so that's 100% true, because it's tough enough that you have to go through this all by yourself. But if you bring your family with you, right, and you bring them into the fold, it'll help you a little bit, because you're not going through it by yourself. You're not, worried all the time by yourself. You got somebody that you could talk to who understands what's going on, and now you could, you could share, and you guys can engage, and I think, thank you, and I think that when you invite your family and they see, you're going to cry, right? It's going to be moments of sadness. It's going to be really, really difficult, but you have to do that, right? And so as you're sitting there and you're sharing with them and you all are crying, then you start planning, right? You start planning for fun things. You start doing things that you haven't done before, and things that you thought about doing and just kept putting it off because of, work schedule, time, money, or whatever it is. But if you give them the opportunity to go through it with you, then it'll help you. Hell, it might help you even live longer, because you feel like you're not struggling by yourself. You feel like you're not, you don't have anything to hide anymore, because you've come clean, right? You let them know exactly what's going on, and that makes a big difference, right? Because anybody who goes through anything in life, and a lot of times we go through our toughest times by ourselves, right? But there are times when we need somebody to talk to. There are times when we're going through some really difficult stuff, and it's not good for us to keep it by ourselves, keep it to ourselves, right? And as much as we want to, it's like sharing and getting rid of a heavy load that you've been carrying on your back for a long period of time, right? You've been carrying so much weight on you that you can even barely stand and walk straight, right? You're about to fall down. And then somebody comes along out of nowhere, right? They say, hey, let me help you, right? Let me take this off your back. And that taking off your back can just be a matter of them just sitting there and listening to you, right? Everybody doesn't have to give you advice, right? Everybody doesn't have to tell you what to do, but they just want to, be able to hear what you have to say, right? And all you want to do is just let somebody listen to what you're going through, and that can do something for you. Imagine going through something and you feel like you have no one to talk to, and then when you finally do, man, it feels like somebody just opened up the window and the sunlight just came in, right? So it's a good feeling to share. It really is. And I enjoy when people send these letters in, because I have a lot of experience. My panel has a lot of experience. We've been through a lot of stuff, right? And so it's good that when you feel like you don't know everything, right? And that it's okay to reach out for help. And I tell people all the time that just because you go to therapy or you feel like you need to go to therapy, that's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of strength, right? Because you realize that you can't do it on your own anymore. You realize that something's not right. You realize that you need some help, right? So I tell anybody who's listening, if you're at a point in your life where you feel like things are not going right for you emotionally, physically, mentally, whatever you're going through, and it's too tough, there are ways you can get help, right? Don't do it by yourself. Like a fireman, when there's a fire and the building's on fire, it's not just going to be one fireman putting the fire out, right? It's going to be a number of people putting that fire out. And what I mean by that is, just because you're going through something, there are different resources that can help you. So it's not just you, right? There are places and people and different things that can be done that can help you get back to where you were, right? And so that's very important. Great program. Talk about messed up dads. Well, I talked about messed up dads earlier. Not so much messed up dads, but the fact that a lot of men are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? They're not in the lives of their children, and they're not taking their role as parents or as father very seriously, because I think it's it's a stigma, right? Like guys really don't matter. They don't have that much of an impact because mothers do everything, right? Mother's been forced to do everything because your butt wasn't there, right? You wasn't doing what you're supposed to be doing as a father. So a lot of women had to step up to the plate and do everything, right? But those times should be past us or slipping away now, because a lot of dads are stepping up. A lot of dads are being dads and being fathers and being active and being present and doing those things that they should be doing, but not enough. Not enough of them are doing it. And my sole purpose is to try to help them get to that point where they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. You know, I didn't know anything about being a parent when I first started at 21, right? 21. Not having any examples around me to say this is how you should do it. Every man needs a mentor, right? Where should men find and handle accountability? Well, that's a good question. So every man needs a mentor. Where should men find and handle accountability? They should find it from other men, right? Accountability, like for instance, if my friends or somebody around me, if they're doing something wrong, as a man, my responsibility, especially if somebody who I care about, is to speak to them and let them know, hey, that's not right, bro. You know, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't, I mean, whatever it is. A lot of times men don't hold each other accountable. And so then they continue to do whatever they're doing. And so that's how we hold each other accountable. That's how we get better. But a lot of times, if you don't do that, then that's like women sometimes, right? They go out together with somebody. They know their friend got on something that's jacked up, totally messed up. And they don't say anything to her. They let her go out there looking toe up from the floor up, right? And they won't say anything. Same analogy for men, right? One of your boys, he's doing this to a person, another lady or whatever, and you know it's wrong, and you don't say anything. You just sit back and look and just don't say anything. That's not good, right? So yeah, we need to hold each other accountable. Let me see what else they said. Good questions and good comments. I appreciate it. So sometimes we go through these things alone because we want to let go and let God. All sickness is not unto death, regardless of what the doctor says. Family means a lot during these journeys. Yeah, that's true. They really do. And having a family, see what happens when I'm clicking on it, it keeps moving. Having his family by his side would be the best therapy. That's true. That would be a really great therapy because no matter how many therapists you go to, sure, they can tell you how you might feel and how you might be able to help alleviate some of those feelings. But the love and the support of a family is amazing, right? It hits different. It's totally different, right? So, yeah. I think I'm liking this. I'll continue to do this podcast, but at one point I was going to say to sit here and just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. That can be difficult, right? Especially when you're used to engaging one-on-one with people and talking to a whole panel of people. But this is kind of cool because I'm actually able to just say what it is that I feel. But as long as you all are able to leave comments and help me, get this stuff out and do what I'm doing, I'll continue to do some podcasts. And if it gets to a point where it's just too much, then I'll just wrap it up and just continue to go back to my social media and do the panel stuff and stuff, things like that. But so earlier I was talking about ways to get my books. For those who don't know, my website is www.antowens.com. It's when you go there, you'll see all of my books. You'll see some of my interviews. You'll see some of my videos. There's a lot of stuff on my website. If you get a chance, take a look at it. And if you feel inclined to buy a book, an audio book, because a lot of people like to listen to audio books now, right? And so it allows people to be able to work out and continue on with their active life, while they're still listening to a book. And it says Black men in particular defines accountabilities. Where should a man look for a mentor? What roles or should the church be playing in mentorship? Wow. Um, what role should the church play? Black men particularly find accountability. Where should I think men should look for mentorship and men that they see and that they believe are doing good. Like when I say doing good, they have a family, um, they're responsible, they're engaging with their children. Right. When you see a man that are doing those things that you know that should be done, I think that's a prime example of a person that you may want to consult with because they're already doing it. Right. So they've probably gone through the bad points in their life, and then now they've blossomed, they've grown, and they matured to a point where they can actually share some good stuff. So that would be a good point. And what role should the church play in mentorship? I think in mentorship, as far as church, you have a group of men there, women, and children as well. And a lot of churches, they have men workshops and things of that sort. And I think if you have men that are in church that are not active in with their children's life and doing those same things that I'm talking about today, it doesn't matter if they're in church or not, right? They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing by their children because you got some bad people in church just like you do anywhere else. And so if you have a group of people in a church and they don't have those same qualities that I'm talking about as far as the things that children need in their lives, that would be counterproductive, right? You're actually just going through the motion of being there, going through something that's not really doing anything for you. And as a church, I think the deacon, the preacher, or whoever is in charge should ensure that the men that are in their church that are running these programs for mentorship and men's groups are men that are doing those things that they are talking about doing, right? If you're teaching something that you should be living it as well, right? That's what I'm saying. I think that's what the role of the church should be. And it is to make sure that these men that are doing all this talking about all this and all these good things, that they're actually doing it. Like I'm talking about parenthood and fatherhood matters because I'm doing it. I know I'm doing it. And I'm able to show other people. I'm able to, talk to other people. I'm able, people can see from what I'm doing and say that, you know what, I'm walking the walk. I'm not just talking about this is how you be a good dad. This is how you be a great dad. I'm actually doing it, right? And so even with my grandkids, I spend quality time with them because with my own son, I wasn't able to spend a lot of quality time with him because I was gone with the military for a long time, right? So that, I didn't like that, but I had to do it. That's how we survived. That's how we paid the bills. That's how we ate. But now that I'm not in the military, I'm more, wiser, and I'm more mature. So I know what it's like to be a good father, and I'm glad that I'm at that point because it was a process, right? Because I wasn't always a good father. I started off really, really shaky, right? It was not good. I was young. I didn't know anything. I wanted to party. I wanted to hang out. I talk about it in my book as well, but I got better because my son needed me, right? And then when the moment when a moment came when I felt like I was doing to him the same thing that my dad was doing to me, which was not being there like I was supposed to, then I realized that I had to change. And so hopefully men that are going through the same thing, they'll grow up, they'll mature, they'll get to a point where they say, you know what, I got to do right by my child or my children because they need me. And so what's the next question? Speak up as to why should you buy your book. Okay. The book, let's say, for instance, I'll start with serve sandwiches. How much time I have? I got 7 minutes. Serve sandwiches. I think everyone should buy this book only because the relatability, regardless of how you look, where you're from, how you grew up. This book right here talks about some of everything, right? Things that you may not have gone through, but it talks about how even though you're going through it, if you believe in your deity, if you believe in yourself, and if you choose not to give up, which is the title of this book, Serve Sandwiches, Choose Not to Give Up. If you have those three qualities, like a three-legged stool, right? If you only have 2 legs, it's not going to stay. If you have 3, you'll be able to sit down. This is the same concept, right? Because if you have those 3 things, you can accomplish anything in life. You tell yourself, you know what? I got my God. I believe in myself, and I'm choosing to not give up. Nothing's going to stop me. The only thing that can stop you is yourself. Remember that. That's one reason why you should buy Serve Sandwiches. Now, why you should buy Fatherhood Matters is because for so long, a lot of fathers have not been what they need to be for their children, right? They've been there, but they wasn't invested, right? They wasn't doing those things that maybe they didn't know, right? Because maybe they got it from their father. They saw how their fathers was, how their father were. But, they'll realize reading this book that the role that they have now is so much more important. I would say more important, but it's very important. It was important then, it's important now. But in a time like it is now, where things are just all over the place and things are just crazy, right? These young men need somebody that's there, that can understand them, that's willing to listen to them, that's willing to, let them share their feelings with you. Because a lot of times back in the day, people used to say, "Hey, go in the room." This, grown folks are talking. They didn't want to hear what the children had to say, and people still do that crap. Fathers today need to listen to their kids because their kids have some good points. They have some good ideas. They have some good suggestions. We need to listen to them because their children matter too. Think about that, right? They want to feel like they have some input in their lives. They want to feel like they can help make some decisions, right? So don't exclude them. They need to be included. They really do. This book right here will let parents know that this is how I should be better. This is what I should be doing. This is not a how-to book. I'm not telling people how to do anything. I'm telling people that some of the damages that can happen when you don't do and when you're not doing the things that you're supposed to do, right? Some of the things that can happen when you're not being proactive, when you're not being caring, when you're not being nurturing, when you're not showing that level of discipline, measured discipline, right? I'm not talking about beating them with switches like I used to get when I was younger. I'm not talking about all that. There's a time where you need to just talk. You need to, just read this book. You'll be amazed, and you'll see why this one won an award as well. I'm putting out some good stuff, folks. And these books are really inexpensive. I price them. I gave this book a lot. Oh, speaking of giving away, this book right here for Kindle readers from the 24th to the 27th is going to be free on Amazon. The Kindle version of this book right here, I'm giving it away free for like 3 days. Why? Just because I want to, and just because I can. When I first wrote this book, none of these books are about making money, because if most people know that the money that authors make, you really can't live off of it at all, right? You better go get you another job. But I wrote this book because I wanted to give back. This is my way of giving back. This is my way of saying, you know what? Take it, read it. Hopefully it'll help you, right? Hopefully it'll help you from spiraling out of control. Hopefully it'll help you from not realizing, it'll help you to stop saying, you know what, I can't do it anymore. It's just too much. When we make excuses like, it's too hard. I don't know how to, I don't know what to do. Those different things. I always say those are ways of getting in your own way, right? Because once you get past it, I can't, I don't know how, and all these different things, you'll see you can. You just got to try. You got to believe. You got to do. And so that's the reason why you get these two books. These two books are amazing. And the only reason, let me tell you what happened. I wrote these two books, Surf Sandwiches, nonfiction, Fatherhood Matters, nonfiction. And then I wrote a book about bullying for children called Raw Power. Ms. Williams said, I think the church should play a big part. And I agree. The church should play a big role. There's so many times, you know what? If you guys want to do a podcast, like I'm doing a podcast, Cammie Grayson right here at SKST Studios right here. The prices are really inexpensive, and she can do it from wherever you are. So what she'll do is she'll give you a link, and you'll be able to sit wherever you want to sit, and she'll zoom it in like this, and you'll be live. And her prices, it says share the StreamYard referral audience, and each earn $25 for each successful referral. I forget that, but SKST. Let me get you the right. I'll put it up on the screen. SKST, there you go. SKSTradio.com or SKST bookings at gmail.com. It's really I'm not gonna say cheap because her quality is this is not cheap. What she has here is amazing. So, but her prices are really reasonable. So listen. So having said all that, we go to the one. All right. So I'm about to go. I don't want to run over time, but I appreciate everybody for hanging out with me. And until next week, I want you guys to hear this last my outro, if you will. It's a nice one. You guys take care and thank you for hanging out with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. And we'll do this again very, very soon.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Books by Anthony Owens Podcast Show. We hope this was a conversation that truly inspired you and gave you something meaningful to carry forward. We appreciate you spending this time with us, learning, growing, and embracing knowledge that truly matters. Join us next week for another powerful and uplifting episode of the Books by Anthony Owens Podcast Show. Until then, stay healthy, stay encouraged, and keep turning the pages of life. See you next week.